Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is lielurr. Thank you so much for visiting. If you've never been here before, I am trying to make an art channel this year and focus on traditional art and eventually go into digital art down the line. My main focus is to get back into my roots of drawing with traditional art in terms of markers, pen and ink, any sort of medium that is very hands-on in terms of drawing and painting and that sort of thing. I'm not super excited about painting, but I will try to do that and challenge myself later on. But I do find traditional art very relaxing, and that's one of the main reasons I've wanted to get back into doing this channel, because I'm not relaxed. I would like to get back into drawing something. It's just very relaxing, I think, overall, just drawing and taking the time to get your hands messy and muddy and dirty, and it's just really something that I miss doing. I used to do it so much, so in high school, in college even, and then I've kind of gone past the point to where I feel like I've hardly ever drawn in anything traditional except the pen anymore, and I really do miss coloring and painting and doing sort of things with my hands, so that's the point of this channel. For this video, I'm going to be going through my old sketchbooks. I have assembled the most that I could find. And by sketchbook, I mean books that I actually used intentionally to sketch with, not just notebook paper or doodling in the margins of something else. Intentionally drawing to draw is what I'm thinking of when I say sketchbook. So here we have my sketchbooks. I have them thrown down in no particular order, it's just the most visually appealing order that I could think of when putting them on the screen. I'm gonna go ahead and rearrange them off screen and put them in the most efficient order that I can think of in terms of timeline. So I want to start off going chronologically in my oldest sketchbook up to my newest sketchbook, which is up to at least I think last month or so I started drawing in it. And yeah, I just want to kind of go from the beginning, the ugly start, to the beginning, the rough stuff, and to the more refined things. And I think it'd be a nice fun way to see my growth as an artist. I don't know if this will go on to be 2 videos or 3 videos. I hope not 3 videos. I don't know if it's going to be that long. I think it might get a little bit boring after that. But yeah, we'll go from here and just see how it feels and feel it out. I tend to ramble sometimes, so I'll try to cut out as much rambling as possible and try to keep this as concise as possible for these videos, and then we'll just go from there. So going based on the initial sketches, the first dated sketches in the first few pages of the books, I'm assembling them in this order. So the oldest book started off at, I think, 2008, all the way up until, like I said, 2024, so up until about a month ago. So a very wide range indeed in terms of progress. So this is going to be either really fun or really embarrassing really fast. So let's go ahead and open them up, and I'll start with the oldest one first. And if for any reason I cut the screen to a different scene all of a sudden, just know that it's either probably one of 2 options. Is that 1, that I don't like it or I don't think it's worth showing, or 2, maybe it's not, YouTube friendly, I guess. It might have nudity in it or something. It's nothing personal. It's just I'm trying to keep this as concise and clear as possible and not embarrass myself too much going through all of these. Okay, so starting with sketchbook number 1. This one, like I said, is from 2008. I attempted to make a book. I don't know what inspired me to use, I guess, mixed media to make a book, but it's here. You can see there's some lace that I glued on for some reason. I'm actually surprised that it's held on for so long. I think I made this in class, an art class. I think I was done with an assignment or something, and I decided, you know what, I need more challenge in my life, and I decided to make this. So I don't know, it's more interesting to me that it's still in one piece versus anything else, but you can see that it's mostly made out of construction paper, which I don't know if maybe that was just all that was on hand that I could take, because I definitely wasn't assigned this project. It's pretty thick. I've yet to count the pages or anything. I think I just kind of there it goes. There's the whole middle section has come out. Let's go ahead and get into what this could possibly be. Okay, so as I go through this, I'm gonna just kind of see if I can remember any sort of notes or any information that I can remember when I was drawing these. Sometimes when I draw, I don't know if it happens to other people, but when you draw, you can remember what you were doing when you did this. This, for example, is not the case. I have no idea who this is supposed to be, who this character is supposed to be, if they're important or not. It says first page of awesomeness. Wow, that's definitely high school. That's definitely high school, embarrassing, cringy sort of, what does it say? Gouet Toast? So I guess his character's name was Gouet? I don't know, that's all I got. I guess I have to show how to design his hair, which I guess was really important enough for me to put it down, but you can see this is from 2008. So thankfully I have improved quite a bit since then. So next we have, what is this? This is just another, I think this is the same character, and maybe like a little brother character or something. Also from 2008. I really don't know what this is, but it's a character, and at least a little kid character. I'll try my best to say things that I like and what I don't like about pages, but I do like how well this is held up, and this is why I really advocate for anyone who wants to start sketching or start drawing and wants a semi-permanent medium, or almost permanent it looks like, because this is from almost 20 years ago, and this was just done with ballpoint pen, like no special pen or anything like that. Granted, I've probably never opened this book after I've sketched in it, but yeah, that's held up pretty well quality-wise. Like there's no smearing or anything, and I'm kind of raving about this really icky sort of loose sketch, but I'm very impressed with how well this pen has held up over the years. Okay, these characters I definitely remember. So this was from a story that I had based around adult actors and actresses. I'll leave it at that. And I think that's most. I don't think I have anything to blur out or anything, but I think here's a sort of cast image of the characters. There's one called Yallow, so Y-A-L-L-O-W. I apologize if all these names are stupid and don't make any sense, or just spelled phonetically off just to be interesting. I won't focus too much on anything on the screen, but you can see it's just sort of, I guess, rough ideas for supporting characters and supporting actors and actresses. This character has changed quite a bit since I've drawn them, so this will be interesting to see if I have any more sketches of them. Okay, next we have, what is this? Okay, I remember this was a weird phase I was in where I was doing, I don't know if this is even offensive, but like faux, I think Chinese sort of lettering, but like sort of like graphic style. So it's all in English letters, but they're written to replicate like Chinese or Asian writing. I don't know where this idea came from, but I remember doing this for a really long time. I hope it doesn't offend anyone. I hope it's not seen as being just really ignorant. I just thought it was kind of cool at the time. Okay, this is another character. So this is old. I'm wondering, I didn't know I made them so young. So at this point I was probably, I want to say in high school, so 16 probably, 15, 16, that era, maybe as young as 15, but I had these character ideas in mind, and I've redrawn them several times. But yeah, it's cool. Like this is just regular ballpoint pen on paper, on cardboard paper, and it's held up so well and so crisp over the years. Oh no, I remember this. Oh god, this is old. It's hard to focus with these colors. Okay, so this was a sketch of myself, I guess my ideal self at the time, or like if I had a persona, what I would look like. I was gonna get a faux hawk apparently, which I don't know what was going through my mind at that point. Faux hawk, and I was gonna, my hair grew 2 inches. That was a whole goal. I still feel that struggle today. Let's see here. Emo scarf V2. So I did have an emo scarf. Oh my gosh, I did have an emo scarf. I had an emo scarf. I want to say I had fingerless gloves even. I don't know what was going on with my sense of style at that point. There's a jacket design. I guess I was either gonna make this jacket or commission someone to make this jacket. I don't know what's going on, but it had a tail. I might redraw this. I completely forgot about this. And then my hair is definitely dyed and straightened. So this is interesting. I have never been that tall. I don't think I'll ever be that tall. So this was definite fantasy in terms of drawing what myself looked like. Let's see what these notes say. Anything interesting? T-shirts, drink, Nani, yeah, this is peak cringe teenager sort of designs. The English, that's, oh god, this is really, I completely forgot a part of this. I'm kind of glad I did, but nice to know that I have changed a bit since then. Let's see what we have here. So these are just more characters from the original story with Yoak and the adult actors and actresses. I think in the story, so what happened is I think Yoak was very poor and he ends up finding David and nursing him back to health. This character was a sort of young prodigy character, like doctor character, and he was the one who helps Yoak bring David back to not full health, but kind of helps him recover in the meantime. And then Yoak is trying to find ways to take care of not only himself now, but someone else, this sort of stranger that he has feelings for all of a sudden because plot reasons. And I think he ends up falling into the adult actor and actresses industry, and that's where the story kind of kicks off. Yeah, so like even this, wow, I know I keep saying it, but like I'm really shocked at how well these drawings have held up for so long. I want to say that I really I miss this style of sketching so much. I really love drawing like this. I loved when I figured out how to do hatching and add texture and depth without, using pencil lead and stuff like that. I think that was really, really cool. So I think this was just a rough comic of, I guess, Yoak acting in one of the films. I think he was like intimidating or less intimidating. Like, people underestimated him and what he could do. And then he kind of surprised everyone. But yeah, I think I'll have to decode these. I really hope they're not saying anything terrible or horribly embarrassing. I don't know so much about blurring yet. I will probably have to figure it out. But if I do keep this in and I don't blur it or cover it up with anything, then yeah, I'll definitely try to translate what this is trying to say down here. But yeah, I'm still just blown away at just how clean these lines still are to this day. This was like a continuation of that sort of thing. I love this phase of my drawing, even though it was gray weeb and cringy in a sense. I really liked how soft I drew male characters in general. I did female characters, but I really liked how soft and sort of feminine I could make male characters without them looking completely like women, which is, it's like a very fine line I tread when I was drawing like this, and I really miss being able to have this control traditionally. So here is, I don't know what this is. I think this is an attempt at something. I have no idea if this was part of a story or part of some characters that I know of. It looks familiar enough, but I have no idea what this was. I was definitely heavy into BL books at the time, and like it was my friends got me into it, and I don't know, that kind of took over my life for a very long, I wouldn't say short, but it took over my life for a while. And it definitely shows in my old sketches. What is this now? This, I don't know what this is supposed to be. I think this was inspired by J-Rock. I also got into that when I was younger. I had a lot of friends who were into that sort of thing. Gacked and I'm gonna say nothing else after that because I don't remember. But J-Rock and like I guess Overworld, that sort of era of things. I think this is another drawing like that, so this is more examples of them. I think this was Yoak, so this is Yoak on the side there. I wonder why I drew him with such light hair. I don't know, he has kind of darker brown hair. And I think this is supposed to be David, which is the person that he finds in trouble and tries to nurse him back to health. And they eventually start to fall for each other and that sort of thing. But yeah, oh gosh, I just remember being so in love with Yoak's design when I was younger. Like, I don't think I have any other character that looks like him in my sort of bag of, OCs or whatever. This was, oh my god, this was my mascot for like my entire art career. And I wonder if anyone can, I'm gonna explain where he comes from, but if you can see any similarities to any other pre-existing characters, let me know, because it's a funny story, at least in my mind, as to how I kind of came. After a certain point, I had an epiphany of like, hold on, wait a minute, something's not right with this character. So this looks like Yoak again. He has the same piercings and sort of body shape. There's a head on a stick for some reason, like a little toy. No idea what this is about. I really did like drawing disembodied faces though. That was fun. This is just a sketch of one of my characters from that series that I ended up feeling that I stole all of my ideas from another popular show. But his name was Konbun, and his whole thing was that he's just very precious and small. I think he's one of my smallest, tiniest characters, and I really like how, you know, not helpless, but sort of small and fragile he looks in this right here. And this is back in 2010, so I don't know. After 2 years, I think I finally figured out how to draw more than just floating heads and that sort of thing. And that's the end of that sketchbook. So that was quick. But like I said, this is usually what happens. I have... Or do I have another one back here? So that's it for the middle of the sketchbook. And then all of a sudden we have these pages on the very back here. Which, again, I keep drawing on red paper for some reason. It's so hard to look at. Oh! I remember these. This was for a project I had to do where I think we had to do like a fairy tale, like a reimagine a fairy tale in a high school art class, and I did the Frog Prince, and I think I just made it literally a frog and a prince character, and this was the character. Hopefully I can find the actual drawing I did, because it ended up being this really big sort of pop arty sort of design, but this is the basis of the design, is that there was a prince character and he had like a cloak and he was holding a frog, a more realistic looking frog, and I think he had like a kissy mark on his face, like a little, you know, kiss mark on his face, but he was not he was very not into the idea of kissing the frog, and this was the sketch that I did for it. I didn't even know I did this. And that's the end of that sketchbook. Wow, so I'm gonna do one more. That was fun. So that was a ride. That was a lot more interesting than I remember it being. I do remember this era of drawing being very sort of BL heavy and into romancing and sort of, weirdly enough, darker stories than I could think of, than I thought I did back in high school. But yeah, at this point I was still getting into anime and manga and that kind of thing, and I started back in middle school, but then in high school I kind of carried on and I guess marinated, because I had a whole sort of social group that all like the same sort of general thing and that kind of thing. We like Asian things, Japanese stuff, and back when K-pop was not this massive sort of okay, not plague, but but it wasn't as obsessive, I think, back in those days. It was more like a fun hobby that you could see, you could share with other people, and you know, have you heard of this band? Have you heard of that band? That sort of thing. It was like K-pop obsession light. That was nice. K-pop stan light version, and growing up in that time, so that was fun. So having a whole little sort of, not clique, but little fan group and friends group of people who like the same thing was fun, and that's where this era of drawings and stuff came in. So I'm going to do one more sketchbook, because I didn't realize this was going to be so long, but I'll try to do one more sketchbook and go through it quickly, or quickly enough, and see what we can get through. Okay, so this sketchbook was a gift from my sister. I think I was starting college and she gave it to me. So she bought this, I think this is a regular moleskin. I don't think it's a special one, but you know moleskin because they're usually black and they have these very distinctive sort of manila, creamy sort of colors, which is nice. This is really cool. I've never known a sketchbook to have toned pages before, so this was an interesting gift. And this sticker has held on. It's not really a sticker, I think she just cut it out and used, maybe it was a sticker, I don't know, it's hard to say, but it's held on well enough for however old it is. So I think that sketchbook ended around 2010, so this is going to catch up right after that and go on from there. But it's held up pretty well. I don't know what was going on, why I was handling it so roughly, but I remember using this sketchbook definitely in college, early days of college, because I think I went in 2009. So early days of college, like mid-college years, I was using the sketchbook most frequently, like on the train, on the bus, drawing in them. That's when I learned to really sketch on the fly and on the go very quickly, and kind of gained better control of my hand movements and that kind of thing, because I had to draw in tune, I guess, with the bumps and the potholes on the road and the bus, because I rode the bus and train like almost every day to get back and forth to school. So eventually I learned just intuitively, there's a bump coming up after this exit or after this stop on the train or whatever. This is actually where I started to develop ideas for my comic 3 AM, so we will see that eventually as I go through this. Okay, so this is from, like I said, 2010, so this comes right after the first book. These characters, I have their names written down, I'm sure, somewhere, but I don't know what they are off the bat. They're still that weird writing that I used to do. I think I got over that pretty quickly. I think it just got tiring. I'm trying to figure out how to do that anymore. Or maybe I just couldn't read it anymore. But I think these characters were from, the story was based around, I think, a record shop in Japan, and they were main characters. I think what happened was this was the store owner, like right here, and then this was his employee, one of his like interns or one of his new employees. Friend, let's call him character B, and then love interest. And I think this is love interest's either wife or girlfriend that either he's aware of or he does not aware of, or he wants to sort of be a intentional sort of home wrecker sort of thing. I think it was a record shop story, and he works there, so you can see them interacting. He's getting really flustered from interacting with the caretaker, the owner of the shop, the record shop. And then here, this is another story, or a character from another story rather, and these were based on Korean characters. His name was Hyung, and I believe I have all of them kind of like floating around in my head, but he was the main character, and he was based around a story involving fashion design, so like the fashion world, designing clothes and characters, and designing clothes for the fashion world. And he started out as an intern at a fashion agency, and his story was, I think it was a story about like being taken advantage of in your chasing your dreams, and unfortunately the enemies that you make along the way, most often than not unintentionally, for being creative and that sort of thing, and how he overcomes that. But yeah, I really liked his design. Speaking of his design, here's a design challenge I guess I did of his character in different designs. So here we have more of shoujo, sort of ultra feminine, very thin line sort of style. This was Ganame. Wow, this really shows my age. Ganame, if you don't know, was an artist. I don't know if he still does stuff. I have to double check. Ganame was an artist I used to follow on DeviantArt years and years ago, obviously from 2010 at least, and I tried to follow in his style. That's really, really funny. I completely forgot that was the style I was trying to copy at the time. Okay, and here we have Pokemon. So it's pretty good, I guess. This was Disney. I think I wrote that I failed because I don't think it looks very Disney-esque. I think it's a little too busy for a Disney character. That was, I think, my style if I was going to draw him, sketch him. And then this was Hajime Ueda, which I believe is the creator of Furikuri. So that was really fun. I was really into Furikuri at the time. I think this is before the reboot and everything, and I think it was, not that it just came out, but I got really into it, and I bought the manga. I didn't know there was a manga for it, and the manga was so graphically different from the show, and yeah, I thought that was really fun. I think that looks the best. That's the one I think I definitely put my heart into more than the rest of them. Okay, so here we have I'm gonna get it. Hold on, let me get a thing. Sorry, I had to get a pin because this thing kept falling down. So these are more of the characters from the story with Hyung. So there's Hyung, and I believe this guy's name was Sungri. If I'm pronouncing them wrong, I'm so sorry, but I remember, this is how I phonetically remember them in my mind. I think I looked up actual Korean names for this, so hopefully I'm remembering them correctly. But I think it was Sungri and Hyung. This was his guy who hired Hyung, and he ends up sort of taking advantage of his talent in more ways than one, and it becomes a problem. And Hyung is hesitant to, he doesn't really know what to do exactly because he has feelings for his senior, but he doesn't want to, he has warnings from other people, but he doesn't want to believe that that's what's going on. And the story kind of develops. There's other characters involved, that it's not just the two of them, but there's a love triangle going on within the main story, and these are two parts of the love triangle. This is from the previous story with the record shop owner, and I think I'm pretty sure that's his wife or his girlfriend. And this is the guy who gets hired, the homewrecker character, so he's not super important right now. I remember loving these characters a lot because I wanted to get into fashion design, clothing design, that kind of thing. I think I had a lot of good ideas for fashion, and I just wanted to expand it more, and I think this was the perfect setting for it because it's a manga about clothing and fashion. So where else would I go ahead and sort of flex my ideas for possible fashion designs in this story? This just looks like so it's just this 15-minute sketch. So I don't think this was anybody in particular. I was just kind of doing some random posing. Here's another sketch. This is supposed to be Kyoto again, my mascot guy that I use forever, ever in a day. And this is another drawing I did of Hyung, and this is just me drawing myself, obsessing over his character. He's just really, really cute. I really like him a lot. Who are these guys? So these are pencil sketches, so they're a little tricky to see. Let's see here. If we can bring them up some. Okay, so I don't remember what the story was about. I think it was about a neat character, which, if you don't know, is like a character who is essentially a homebody, but cranked up to the max. They kind of don't leave if I remember correctly, they don't leave the house. They're like a recluse, basically. And I think there is a character, so his name was Tetsuo, as you can see. I wrote that up there for some reason. Tetsuo, I forget who the name of his character was, but I think it's just an idea that ran through my head. I don't know if it was ever going to go anywhere, but I like it. So I guess this is supposed to be Tetsuo, and then the female character who is trying to get him out of the house, or interested in him, or worried about him. And I guess this may be like, she has an apron, so she's probably a mother character, or an older sister or something sort of character. But I like these drawings, I like these sketches. These are very neat. Here's more sketches from Tetsuo. So this is from 2010. Okay. I guess I was trying to figure out names for this character, and I absolutely hated this one for some reason. I don't know what I was trying to say. Was it Reiko? Or Retsuo? Or something? I must have hated it. I drew a skull and crossbones, so that was never gonna work out. I don't know what happened there. That's what happened. But these are the characters. There's more sketches of the characters. They're kind of generic, which I think was the point. They weren't really supposed to be they're supposed to be more realistic in terms of character designs. Here's more Tetsuo. So I don't know where. I guess I had a good idea. I liked the character design, I guess, enough to keep going. And this was all done with mechanical pencil. And I liked the way that the shading was coming out with mechanical pencil. It looked like it took forever and a day. And I think that's probably why I stopped working on this, because it's just so much hatching and sketching and trying to be very neat. But here's I guess a breakdown of Tetsuo's character and his limited emotions that he has and that sort of thing. So he's very reserved, reclusive sort of character, and yeah, so he's not trying to be unfriendly. I think he's just, I don't know what would have happened to him. Maybe something traumatic happened to him and he doesn't see going outside as being purposeful anymore, and he's very sullen and that sort of thing. But I don't know, maybe it's like a redemption story. I don't know. I still like how these came out. But this was an idea that I had in Japan, and I fell in love with these characters. They just sort of, this is one of those things that just kind of came to me. And again, this is mechanical pencil. I don't know why I did this to myself, but this was something I remember working on these characters throughout the whole trip. Whenever I had a spare moment, I would just sketch out these characters. So this was a BL story, and I think the main focus was that it was, as it looks, it's two contrasting sort of characters and them coming together and finding, the most interesting parts of themselves. So this was like a punk rock sort of, maybe like mid-20s or so, but he's very young at heart. And then a contrasting sort of stiff businessman sort of character. And that was the relationship dynamic that I was going off of. But I really liked how these characters came out, and I did obsess over them for a few pages after this, and I hope that I still have them in here to show. Okay, so I will get back to them. So these were the sketches of the fellow people. Okay, so what happened was we went on the trip, and these are the people who went on the trip with me, and I asked them as we were I think this was the train ride home to the airport. This was the train ride home, and I asked everyone to sketch something in my sketchbook. So I don't know if you guys are watching, that'd be really odd if you were all of a sudden, but if you remember this, I still have the sketchbook. This was, again, like the characters I told you about, with the mismatched sort of characters and coming together and that sort of thing. So very sort of free-spirited sort of character with the sort of buttoned up sort of male character who's very, cold and cynical, that sort of thing. And them coming together and bringing the best out of each other. I really do love this sketch of this character. I think this sketch really embodies the feeling of the character and what he looks like and what he represents as a character. The other guy is pretty generic, honestly. The only thing interesting about him really was his hairstyle, and that's pretty much it. But for the most part, yeah, this is definitely the vibe. I got the vibe right away for these characters through these drawings. There's a lot, just more writing, sketching, writing. And this was supposed to be a rough idea of their first meeting. Again, drawing comics all the time. I think it started here, and it kind of goes down, kind of like webtoons, where it kind of goes down like that. So I think in the first meeting, so I think at this point, so character A and character B meet on a train, and they meet each other by chance, and it just sort of passes very quickly. But character A, which is the younger character, is hung up on character B with the corporate worker guy, and I think what happens is character B ends up giving character A a handkerchief because he was crying. I think that's what happened. He gave him a handkerchief because he was crying. So character A takes that as a chance to return the favor and, express himself to the character to say thank you, because he doesn't get the chance to say thank you, and follows him to work. And I think it ends up being one of those sort of only can happen in TV sort of moments where I think he hangs that under his desk or something and surprises him. I think he's working, and then he seems like he drops his pen. And here it goes, he drops his pen, and then all of a sudden he's working, and then his pen is given to him by someone under his desk, and he doesn't realize it until he gets nervous, obviously, and he looks down to see that character A is just sort of subtly hiding out under the desk, and then the story progresses from there. So it was supposed to be sort of a, not slapstick, but sort of more goofy side sort of story. Not very realistic, but sort of cheesy, I guess. This is supposed to be like peak cheese comedy romance sort of thing. So these drawings are from one of my oldest stories, which, like I said before, this is a story with Kyoto in it. There he goes again. A story with Kyoto in it, which he does look like someone else. If someone can comment and tell me what you think or what you think he looks like, then I'll be able to confirm for you. But he is based on someone who definitely already exists. And I kind of refused to believe it for the longest time in my life. But this whole cast and this story ended up being very, very derivative of another popular story, a very popular anime and manga story, but I didn't want to believe it for the longest time. So this was Kyoto, he was the main character, and this was Penelope. This is Penelope's sister, her name is Lily. Penelope again, Penelope's best friend. Another side character, Honbun again from the first sketchbook, the very small, tiny boy, precious boy. There you see, there he is. Yep. There's precious boy being precious, and yeah, there's a couple of things kind of going on. So this was the style. I think this is like right in between where my style changed. I think all of a sudden, where I used to draw like this forever and ever, up until I think like like mid-college. I used to draw like this, sketch like this, and then my style sort of changed very drastically. These sketches were for a class. We had to make, I believe the assignment was a dichotomy or something like that, where you have to make two contrasting, like something that doesn't make sense, or like two contrasting elements or something, but like make it make sense in a way. So like this was a sketch of, I guess, a little kid in bed, and they have like a solar system background, but then they're also playing with like falling stars and shooting stars, and they're kind of like melding into the background. This one was of a female character, I guess just in a shower or bathing or something, and her hair and body turned into the landscape. This was of a puppeteer. Okay, so this was like a ballerina, but she was controlling herself with the strings, or like a ballerina puppet, I guess, but she's controlling herself with the strings. Let's see why I didn't end up choosing these. This one I think was the most interesting idea that I had, but I couldn't figure out how to pull it off. The assignment was that we had to do it on scratch paper, which is essentially black paper that's been coated with a special black surface, and then you scratch out and reveal a white relief imagery. Like a reverse etching, basically, is what you do. So you're working from black, and you scratch out to reveal the white underneath, and that was going to be way too complicated to do this in terms of that. But that was the idea for this was, I think, a character, and they're wearing a jacket, and as they unzip, they reveal different layers of a landscape. So I think this one, I think as it goes further in, either it decays or it grows, or I don't know, it's something like that. But that was way too ambitious, I think, for a scratch pad. This one was a little more dramatic. This was, I think, either a gunshot wound or like a cut to the neck or something, but instead of it being blood, it's like butterflies and flowers and something peaceful. So the contrasting elements that you kind of make the scene make sense, even though it doesn't make sense. I don't know, that was a weird assignment, but it wasn't great. I don't remember enjoying that one at all. This I only recognized because it's ended up being a larger drawing that I did for another class, and that it was the Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus, but instead it's a demon. So it's like a contradictory thing. And I actually did turn that into a full illustration. I will find that and possibly show that in a later video. Okay, so this was what I ended up doing for the dichotomy project, and I keep saying that's name. I don't know if I'm gonna have to look it up to see if that's really the right term, because I feel like the more I say it, the more wrong it is. But this is what I ended up doing. So it was someone taking a bath, but they're taking a bath like a giant taking a bath as if it's normal in a general landscape pool, lake. I don't know. This is really boring. I don't know why this ended up being the final design. I didn't even like it when it was done. That was what ended up being the final design that I chose. This is just exploring more angles. This is more interesting, I think, but it doesn't really show. I don't know. I think it makes it harder to show the relationship to the background. So this is a mess of people. I think this was back before I knew how to draw torsos. As you can see, I used to draw torso. That was a big thing with me. I didn't know what a sternum was and a rib cage was. So I would draw my torsos way up there, like right underneath the sternum, and there's like hardly any breastbone. It's just right underneath there. And that was something that followed me for a very long time, until I think a counselor from like a different course called me out for it. I was applying for some sort of class or something, and I think they wanted to see my portfolio, and they called me out for it, and I was like, huh, I guess you're right. So here's more bodies. I think I was trying to do the same thing again with more bodies and different poses. And this was unprompted. I just started sketching bodies, and then I got bored, I guess. And I started to try to draw dragons, and then I realized I can't draw a dragon. So I stopped doing that too. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, you can see it right there. I draw a lot of my own reactions. I didn't realize this until looking back at this. I realized very quickly that nah, this is not for me. I do like the look of these though. I don't know, there's something about them. They look very duck-like, and they're more dinosaur-like, I think, which I don't know if that's blasphemous against people who draw dragons and dinosaurs, if to confuse the two, but they always look more... This is my version of a dragon, which is basically a dinosaur. But this one, I think, was my favorite out of all of them. Okay, so this is going into my bread and butter in terms of what I like to do and what I like to draw. Let me just zoom in. With these sketches, I think I was trying to draw as tiny as possible. You can see this is my thumbnail here compared to the size of these drawings. When I was drawing with a regular ballpoint pen, no fancy fine point pen or anything, but I was trying to draw as intricate, as many details as possible. And I also was drawing like body horror, which is totally one of my favorite things to draw. So yeah, put them both of them together, ink drawing and body horror, and this is what you get. So these were really fun. I think I was going to end up turning these into prints or something, but I never got around to it or never had the interest. But there's something about them that I think is really nice. Like, they're gross, but they're not super gross. Like, they're you can look at them without heaving, I think. Okay, so here's more Yoak, and I was a Yoak and Friends, but more Yoak. I haven't seen him in forever, but here he goes again, refining him a little bit more. And then there's David. This is the character named David that I was talking about that he finds. And let's see here. So Yoak, David. I think these are just sort of random characters. I don't think there's Sven, but I don't think these characters have any sort of real they don't really add to the story. This was a friend of David's friend, and it goes on from there, but yeah, that's basically it. I really like drawing this. Fun fact, this is like one of my go-to character designs. So like in every story I have, there's probably a character that has two-toned hair that is probably a little wavy, if not curly, and then there's lighter bangs in the front. Like almost every story I have at least one character like that somewhere. I don't know where that obsession came in, but that's something that I definitely carried on throughout my drawings. So this one, not so much, okay, I was gonna say controversial, that's not the right word. It's not bad, okay? It's not bad. I don't love it, but it's not bad. But this, I'm conflicted, that's the right word. I'm conflicted with this drawing because it is a sketch. It's not really, I know, it's hard, it's a sketch, it's a drawing, it's both, it's everything. But what the problem with this is that I really like it a lot, enough so that I timed myself and wrote down, you know, how long it took me to do it. I took pauses and stopped and restarted again to see how long it took me to do this. So overall, I think it took me 2 hours and 10 minutes is what it says. So I really like the way this came out, but I love it for the look of the line work. Like, that was my biggest thing with this. I love the line work in this, and I wish so badly that I can draw like this again. I kind of can't, and it really makes me very, very sad. I've tried to draw like this on several occasions. I don't remember sketching any of this with pencil before I went in and started drawing with this, so that was really strange of me and really bold of me to do, but I love it so much. I love the line weights, I love the different textures that I was able to accomplish with just this one line weight. And I really like how soft the hair looks and how puffy the pants look and all the little intricacies in the pants. The figures are bad. They're not good. They're all wonky or whatever. But I don't know, there's just something I really feel, this is a really nice comfort sketch, I think. And I think it was supposed to be, again, like in the universe of Yoak and his friends, and it was like a late night with Yalo and Sven, and they're sort of best friends in the story. And I guess maybe Yalo had too much to drink or something, or he's just a little tired, and Suven is like the comfort character. He's like the older mom character of the friend group, and Yalo is the more flirtatious, outwardly social one. So this kind of illustrates the sort of emotional bond that they have with each other. And I really like the difference between this part of his hair, the shaved part of his hair, versus the fluffiness of the rest of his hair. And it's so much, and it's just so clean. And I don't know, I wish I could just jump back into this style again with updated anatomy, knowledge. But, to do this again, it's just really, really comforting to look at this again and go back to this again. And again, I love how well it's held up since 2011. So almost 12 years now. I would like coming back to this. It's a very bittersweet sort of feeling looking at this drawing. I was really in love with these characters for some reason. I don't know what really spoke to me about their designs, but there's Yalo again. Yeah, not Yalo. Yoak again, and David. I think this is where I started to develop, around this era is when I started to develop my bread and butter in terms of sketching tools, which was red ballpoint pen and black pen. This is kind of all I drew with for a really long time. After this sketchbook, I think almost every sketch I did, I had red pen as a base, and then I had black pen to fill in the space and to define everything. And it's just really nice. It's a really nice combination, I think. And even on cream paper, it looks very warm on cream paper, but even on white paper, copy paper, it looks really bold. And I love the look of that. And I like the subtlety you can get with the red ballpoint pen, the shading I can get and accomplish with that is really nice. It's just really cool to draw with, and I still, even now, I have, if I have a set of black pens, I have a set of red pens sitting right next to it, ready to go. And even if I travel with pens to draw with, I have a red pen, a black pen, and probably a black pen in 2 different widths. This is how I used to draw for a sketch for a really long time. And this is still talking about Yoak. I don't know. I have no idea. I've written some of the story out, but I haven't done much with it. But this was another adult actress from that story. So this was a character. I think this was a sort of love triangle-esque character that got brought into the mix between Yoak and David. Her name was Diaz. One thing I do remember when drawing this page is that I drew it at like I was drawing really late. It's 3 a.m. and it was 80 degrees. It was obscenely hot. In the house, it was 80 degrees, and I just felt like, okay, I think this is where I just sort of started to collapse. Like, I started strong with the first set of drawings, and then I started to just, you know what, that's it. I can't do it anymore. So that's not me, but that's representative of definitely how I felt at the time, when I realized how hot it was at the time of day that it was. And then just more Diaz, and just more figure sketching. I think I finally figured out that, the chest can move down a little bit. I'm not keen on drawing with blue pen. I think it's just way too similar to black pen. It's not as dramatic as red pen. With black pen and blue pen, they're basically the same color. You can see, you can barely tell even on her face. It just looks like a deeper black or like a deeper blue. So it has its place, but unless you're sketching really light and blue, and then using black pen, I think it's kind of pointless. So finally we've got a different story going on. So this was an idea for a video game, actually, I had based around voodoo and African mythology. So the story was about, I think, a male character. I think I have a sketch of him later on in the sketchbook somewhere. But it was a male character, and I think the main overarching story was that his family, there was either like a massive raid of his village or something, or, the initial tragic event. And that leads to the rest of the story. And by getting help from the gods, learning about the voodoo gods and whatever, he gains different powers and kind of seeks revenge on the people who did this to his family and village and friends and everything, and that kind of thing. So I was developing monsters and hordes and mobs, I guess, of different creatures, and this is one of them, and these were, I think, based... So all the creatures and things that I was looking at, I have a whole massive file of notes and information on this stuff. I remember that distinctly, that part of my life, just researching voodoo and characters and all kinds of gods and demigods and that sort of thing. It's really fascinating stuff if you've never looked into it. Even if you don't believe in it or anything, it's just pantheons and mythology like that is always fascinating to me, and it's just not talked about, I think, at all, especially like African voodoo or whatever, and it's so rich and diverse. I had no idea there was so much going on in it. So these were a set of characters that I drew based on, I think the characters, from what I remember, these were characters that are based on either, I want to say, like children who die during childbirth or something, or like the spirits of children who died during childbirth, something like that, and that's what these characters represent. So they're like kind of like lost children in that sense. So there's 3 different versions of them. So there is a young boy sort of version, there is a teenage boy sort of version, and a young girl sort of version. So young boy, young girl, and then like a teenage boy would be the highest tier for these children. So they're sort of faceless, not faceless, but they're sort of emotionless, sort of just embodiments of, you know, sort of angst and anger, and, you know, from not being able to live their own lives, not being able to exist, and that sort of thing. I think the biggest thing I was thinking about with this story or this game is that it's more about, I don't know if I think I was kind of going with like a Fable sort of situation where you didn't have to destroy everything, where it was more like you can purify stuff. You don't have to kill everything necessarily. You have the option to, but you can also like free spirits and that sort of thing instead of just destroying everything. So here's more sketching of the characters. I'm just blocking someone's email with my finger. I don't know who that is, but I'm blocking their email address. So these are just more sketches of sort of just rough figures. I think for the girl characters, they were supposed to be more sort of like the teenage boy character, I think, were supposed to be the most athletic. The young boy sort of demon characters are sort of brash and sort of irrational in how they move, and then the female characters are more graceful in how they move, sort of like ballerina-esque sort of characters, like gymnastics, sort of, you know, the way that they attack and that sort of thing. And then like I said, the teenage boy is the most aggressive and, I guess, not cruel, like he's more calculated than the other two, and that was the distinction between these characters. And this is just some more sketching. Like I said, I used to draw whenever. There was a point in my life where I couldn't stop drawing. It was almost a disease, it felt like, or I had the impulse to draw on anything I could find. This is actually, let me see. This is one of my old assignment papers from school. And I guess I finished the assignment or I didn't find it very interesting, and I said, you know what, this would make good drawing paper. And I did it, and I drew on it. This is another rough explaining more of the general design of the female demon character. I think going forward I ended up removing their lips and noses because they looked a little too like uncanny, like, or a little too, and also it weirdly made them more generic to have sort of faces, and I think to have more distinctive features. So I think more when they look more like this, they're a little more unsettling. And they're not as they're less human. I think that makes them a little more interesting to look at than when they have faces and just blank eyes. But this was really cool. I remember looking into like tribal patterning and different markings and different earrings and that sort of thing. It all was going to play a big part in my design. It wasn't just going to be generic monster number 57. It was going to be based on tribes and belief systems, and depending on where you are in the game, they would look different depending on where you are based on the tribes or villages nearby. It was a lot that I was going to get into with this. Okay, so very quickly, this was, to put it very bluntly, this was one of the best designs I think I've ever made, ever, for a character, and it's one of the African gods, and his name was Gede Nebo, I believe is how it's pronounced. Please, if it's not that, just let me know. But I believe his name was Gede Nebo, and I fell in love with his design. It was interesting when I was trying to figure out how to design gods and stuff like that. It's weird that there aren't a lot of images of the gods. It's mostly like very vague descriptions of them, which is interesting. So a lot of designs you might like Google and search for online for like African gods and like big ones that kind of stand out more than others, they're kind of all just a amalgamation of everyone else's ideas of what they kind of look like. There isn't like an ancient, as far as I could find, there wasn't like an ancient basis to go off of. It wasn't like the first recorded drawings of, you know, this god or whatever and this goddess. It was very interesting. So I had a lot of creative freedom in designing the character, so I really ran with this character design. So his basic features from what I could find was that he is number one, effeminate, so that checks a lot of the boxes already for my style. He is a dandy. I literally saw the word dandy in one of the descriptions of this character. He has a black riding coat and sometimes wears drag. Like that's canon for this character. He is like sort of special item that he kind of has with him, or to summon him, or when you're trying to invoke him, is a bottle of rum with herbs. I think that's where this design was coming from. Let's see here. Oh, a staff and a cigar. So I really just, I was like, okay, I can see him already. And this is the character that I came up with. So he's like a fair skin sort of character. So I had him in a riding coat. I made it sort of this really full fur, fluffy fur sort of thing going on here. And he's effeminate, so I made him more slender. I kind of straightened his hair because I thought that'd be something that he might be into doing. Like, he's very particular about his appearance. The earrings and, you know, sort of body clothing and that kind of thing is kind of generic at the moment because I never developed this much further, but I really love his design. Here's some sketches of him in color. Oh my god! And these were done with a set of water-based markers, like really generic water-based markers. I love this sketch the most on this page. I really like how the lighting and the posing came out for this one. It's just a sketch of him, I guess, sobering up. I like the speckles to indicate the fuzzy-headedness he has. I love it so much! I forgot this drawing was in here. And he had blue eyes. I figured he's a god, he can have whatever, doesn't have to have natural colored eyes, natural colored hair, he can do whatever he wants. But yeah, I really liked the way that this character was designed and how he came out. And I think this was supposed to be a sketch of a monster, and an African monster named Gagorib, and again, if you look him up, you're gonna get like 5 random facts about him, but there's no sort of specific drawings of him. And I don't know if that's like based around African culture, about like if there's like a preservation thing, like maybe there weren't actual drawings and etchings or paintings or whatever that are of these characters, but they exist in the culture. It's not like they just made them up. They are prevalent in the culture and people know about them and there are stories about them, but there's like no like official artwork and stuff for them. It's so strange. But I mean, I guess that kind of works in my favor because it lets me just kind of run wild with all my designs for these characters. So this was a rough of the main character. I started with the name Arin. I don't know if that's at all of any African descent. But yeah, this is just some roughs of what his general body type is supposed to be like, and this is like a younger version of him because he's supposed to be more mature and older at the start of the game. And I do like the energy and the layout of I like the color combinations more than anything, but I like the layout of this page and how I was approaching this character design. He has changed significantly. I still haven't really designed him yet. He's still tricky to me. But even like his weaponry and everything like that is very different in my head at this point. But Getting is definitely the favorite of this series. Getting into the good stuff now. So this, like I said, this is the book that I developed the initial imagery for 3 AM. This is where I got the most inspired. So you can see here back in 2011 is when I first started getting inspired. I think that may have been just when the song came out also. But like I said before in a previous video, there's just something about the song and the video. The song was one thing, but when I saw the video, I was like, oh my god, this is great. This is incredible. I know Eminem is a horror fan, obviously. So the visuals were very stark and graphic, and they just really stuck in my head. And for some reason, I felt like I wanted to illustrate them, so I wrote down the lyrics from the song that stuck out to me the most. And I just thought of different ways that I could make either like sort of supporting illustrations or that kind of thing. But yeah, I really loved it. And I started doing this with, I want to say, the same water-based markers that I used for the Gede and the African characters. That's those sort of markers. So they're very vibrant. But because of the way the markers work on paper, they allowed me to get this very graphic, dramatic sketching style and color style, and very bold colors, and I love that. And these are definitely drawings that I did on the train, on the bus, and you can see, so if you read the comic, you can see where a lot of the influences for the pages, some of the pages, or when the panels came from. And even this is a rough concept for the cover, and it still holds up. It's pretty close to this is one of the first ideas that I had, and this is pretty close to what the actual final image ended up being. Okay, this is definitely the catalyst of, you know, the creation of the comic, the idea for the comic. And honestly, I love the idea of the song, I love the idea of the visuals and everything coming together, but to me, the whole purpose for me to make the comic was that, like, I felt like ironically, I felt like he was playing it safe in terms of, you know, what he was trying to accomplish with the character and what the song was about. I think during that time he was going through his own personal stuff, but for the most part, it wasn't. I feel like it didn't get pushed enough. There was this beginning of some kind of story there, which I guess he can only do so much within a music video, but he can make multiple music videos. Like, he can make a series of things. Like, he obviously has an interest in horror and, you know, characters and, you know, blah blah, demonizing himself and whatever. So I thought it could be pushed a little bit more, and as I developed, I ended up making Travis and developing the story, and, you know, so it's not directly, you know, a version of the song expanded into a book, but it's inspired by the feelings, the actions of the killer in the song, and pushed to a different direction, a different tangent, to make my own sort of story. Alright, so we're winding down to the end of the notebook now. So this is still 2011, and it's still more drawings of Gede Nebo, which I told you I love. I think I was designing his outfit, I suppose, and I don't know, maybe I got distracted. I didn't get very far. I think this is supposed to be sort of a play on ornaments and decorations, accessories, that kind of thing. Never went anywhere with it. Just kind of stayed there. Here's some more sketches from 3 AM, more conceptual stuff. I like this one. This one I like. I like how eerie this one was. I think it's supposed to represent it being him being out of focus. I think this one is a direct reference to a line where I think he said the killer is around the corner. You're out of breath, you can't run anymore. What are you gonna do, basically? And you don't know that the killer is right around the corner waiting for you. Okay, this, I have no idea what spurred this. I remember liking this idea, but I have no idea where it came from. So this, very briefly, is supposed to be, I think, a set of, like, traditional illustrations. I think I got into fairy tales, I think, around this time when I was going to college. So, like, fairy tales and, like, buying books, like children's books that were, like, really well drawn and, like really interesting style illustrations. I really like the old sort of classic fairy tale illustrations. I guess that inspired this, but the story for this, I believe, was going to be a set of illustrations to a poem that I made up, a long poem, not an epic, but an extended, like, a long poem that I made up around the myth of mermaids. But the twist, because there's always a horrible twist when I make these things, the twist was that the mermaids are being hunted. They're not so much admired, but they're being hunted by these sort of pirates for their limbs. So you can see the mermaid's hand is gone there. So I guess sort of like rabbit's feet in that sense, so like mermaid's hands, or maybe it's like she does like an aphrodisiac or something. You can see she's been attacked a couple times or narrowly escaped a few times. So these mermaids are being hunted, not so much for their beauty or, you know, so in this world, mermaids exist, people know they exist, they're still rare, but they're being hunted for their parts, and God knows what's going to happen to them when they're done. But I ended up writing some sort of poem, and I can see my raft over there. So yeah, I might revisit this, I don't know. But I did want to make a sort of, I still do want to do like a sort of macabre sort of spin on, I even did the rhyming scheme, what the heck. I wanted to make sort of a macabre set of illustrations for sort of corrupting, not in a cheesy way like, you know, a dark version of Winnie the Pooh or a dark version of Mary Had Little Lamb, but like the sort of fairy tale elements, but like a more sinister side to them, but still using like traditional illustration styles that you would see in like classic fairy tale books. I think this is just this is just a continuation of the poem. I don't think I didn't finish it, but I could probably go back and rework it. And getting to the end. Okay, so these are more sketches about the mermaids. Wow, I was really thinking about this. I wonder why I stopped. Maybe classes? Probably class. So I think this is I don't know if you can tell, because my sketches have deteriorated very much so over time to where they're like basically like this. I know what this is. If you don't know what this is, that's fine, but I know what this is supposed to be. I have the full illustration in my head based on just this sketch alone. So this is more compositions for pages and the full illustrations for the books. I think I found an old book, or I think my sister bought it for me, maybe, most likely, I don't know, she's probably gonna claim that that's what happened, but a book of fairy tales, like classic fairy tales, but they're beautifully illustrated. So it's like Pinocchio and like Brother Rabbit and those sort of stories, and I think that's where a lot of the inspiration came from. So a lot of really cool spreads and that sort of thing. The illustrations are really good, so like the words would go in between here, like I'd work around the compositions to lay out the words artfully along the page. That was where a lot of the inspiration for this came from. So I think this is a shot of the captain character. These are, I think, there's different iterations of the characters meeting the pirates for the first time. So I think this is the captain across, seeing a mermaid in the distance. The mermaids kind of hiding in plain sight, I think, was a big thing in terms of developing the story. The mermaids were kind of always there, you just have to kind of look for them. They're rightfully curious of the outside world or everything above the water, but you know, there's always the danger that they kind of have to be aware of. And this is just a very scary lady that exists for some reason. I don't know what I was trying to do. I think I was trying to illustrate lighting, like a dramatic lighting. I don't know. I can't tell you what that's supposed to be from. So these, I think, were for... Okay, so at the end of college, we had to design a resume, and we had to incorporate our own, you know, style into it. So I decided to do sort of a logo of myself, and this is... It's close. It's pretty close to how I looked at the time, I think. I'm more pear-shaped, definitely, than this, but this is, again, like a cutesy sort of iconic version of myself. And then just random animals for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, this design didn't go anywhere, and there's random nurses for some reason. But yeah, I think this is supposed to be my logo, just my head, just sort of different iterations of my head and how I would do my logo or my name. This is the name I used to go on the... at the time, I used to use this as my pseudonym online, and then it was just very generic, so I changed it. This was a set of sketches based on an assignment that I had in one of my favorite classes. We had to design sort of, I don't know I forgot the class is called exactly. I said it's my favorite. It's a class where we had to design illustrations for real life applications, basically. So we had again, it's one of those assignments where we had pretty much all the artistic freedom to do whatever, and you were just given book titles or just titles of just media in general, I think. And I chose to do them as a series of books covers, like children's books covers, but again in my style. And this was one of the characters. And I will show what some of the final look like. And I ended up using these designs and got them, got mock-ups done for my portfolio tape at the end of the year when it was time to graduate. It was a really fun experience overall, and the design process and graphic design and everything. And I really like these designs. These are probably some of my best works, I think, in terms of my line work and showing off my ability to draw and create characters, because we really had like no prompt. It wasn't like draw this using these characters and these mediums. It was literally just, this is the name of the thing, do something with it. And that's what we did. And this is literally the last page. It's not even the last page, it's the, like, the protective page in between the back of the book and the little folder pocket thing you get inside the sketchbook. But this was a character for video game idea. There was a demon, I believe there was like a bird king, basically. So I decided to make him undead for some reason. I don't know if he was undead, you know, in his mythology, but a bird king. So like a mix of human skeleton and bird type skeleton objects, aspects. He had like a really rusty, weird looking crown, that sort of thing, and he's very tall, obviously. So this is like our main character. So he's not super menacing, but he is obviously taller, maybe like 8 foot tall or something. And he did have the ability to fly, so, you know, you hear the bones sort of rattling sort of thing. A lot of bone type enemies in this story, actually. But yeah, I like this design. It was fun. He's a little bird tail. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I hope I have more designs revolving around this character as it goes on, because I feel like I've designed everything except the main character. I think that was my main hitch with this project, is that I felt like I was going in the opposite direction, designing everything else except the main character, and that felt so backwards. So I kind of, every time I think about it, I kind of feel bad for not designing everything correctly in the right order. But that's it. So we started off from high school, 2008, going on. So this is, if we can have any comparisons, I'm trying to do a quick comparison to something that looks good. So that's pretty good. Something good, something good, something good. Something good, something good, something good. Okay, this is fine, okay. So we're going from early days, 2008, until 2011. There's definitely a change in the way that I draw things at this point, so I'm glad that there's been some progression, some change in the way that I approach characters and that sort of thing. And there has been progress, so you can't say there hasn't been progress. And I'm glad that I was able to find these and keep these, and I still, if anything, this is 100% testament to sketching in ballpoint pen. You don't need anything fancy, you don't need anything super legit to draw and sketch things in. As long as you take care of your sketchbooks and your books, you're good to go for years and years and years and years and years. This is over 10 years old, this drawing, and it's still holding up just fine. And these are even, the ones in this book are even older. But that's all. Like I said, I had no idea this was going to be so extensive. I was not expecting for any of these books to be filled, much less the second book that I pick out of the series. I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go through, but spoiler, a lot of these are empty. So these will probably go through a lot quicker, but for the most part, I did have fun with this. This recording is taking forever. I'm gonna have so much to go through and so much to pick apart. Thank you so much for following along with me and seeing my embarrassing starts. This isn't even the beginning. I still have some of my like initial early days drawings from when I first started drawing at all. So I'm gonna dig those up and that'll be another video, but hopefully you enjoyed this one. I am super tired. I am falling asleep as I'm talking. I'm sort of blanking out almost. Every time I close my eyes I feel like I'm losing 5 minutes. But thank you so much for watching. If you want to see part 2, or you know, you want me to stop and never see any more drawings again, I completely understand. But let me know in the comments below, and I hope to see you again soon. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day, have a good night, wherever you are. I hope that you're well and you and yours are doing great. And until next time, see ya. Bye bye.